Well, I think it's about time we got started. So, welcome to everyone who's joined us today for our latest webinar. So thank you very much for joining us again. I hope you're all well and staying safe for a start. This webinar is focused on the value of professional registration and professional membership in an environmental context. This includes the Chartered Environmentalist and Registered Environmental Technician registrations regulated by the Society for the Environment, but also includes professional membership much widely as well. And by environmental context, we aren't just talking about core environmental functions or those working in organisations such as the Environment Agency and their devolved counterparts, environmental consultants and ecologists, etc. We are, of course, including those who specialise in environmental work within their key function as a civil engineer or forester or chemist, or essentially any organisation employing environmental professionals and those individuals with an environmental specialism. It's a fairly wide net, which links quite nicely to the wide opportunities and issues associated with protecting and enhancing the environment. So that's today's topic in short. As a way of an introduction to ourselves, very quickly, you're watching a Society for the Environment webinar. We hold two professional registers for environmental professionals, and they are the Chartered Environmentalist or CM register and the Registered Environmental Technician or RM Tech register. The Society operates as an umbrella organisation, currently made up of 24 professional bodies known as our licensed members. All of these professional bodies hold a licence granted by the Society to award the CM registration to their members. And the ones that are highlighted now also offer the RM Tech registration to their members. To become a CM or an RM Tech, you need to be a member of and apply via one of these professional bodies. If you want to find out any more, then if you head to the website that's in the bottom left of your screen, you'll be able to find out lots more information there. So that's quite enough from me for now. To put a name to a voice, my name is Phil Underwood. I'm the Engagement Manager at the Society for the Environment. But more importantly, I am today joined by Catherine Wright and Martin Ballard. Thank you very much for joining us both. Catherine is the Director for Digital and Skills in Flood and Coastal Risk Management at the Environment Agency. She also leads on skills for the 4,000 flood professionals in the Environment Agency, making Catherine ideal for this webinar, really. So welcome, Catherine. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Martin is the Group Environment Manager for Willmott Dixon, responsible for environmental protection, legal assurance and promotion of environmental improvements for risk mitigation, assisting their business with best practice to perform to company targets. That was more of a mouthful than I was expecting. Martin is also keen on skills and professionalism and is an advocate at Willmott Dixon and beyond, really. So again, welcome, Martin. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon.
So we've come to the time where I'm just going to hand over now to Catherine to start off with, just for a few minutes to provide her insight from the Environment Agency perspective, and I'm sure from a personal perspective as well. So Catherine, if you're ready, I'll hand over to you.
Great, thank you very much, Phil, and good afternoon, everybody. And thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today about a subject that is very close to my heart, but also importantly to the Environment Agency. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a bit about the Environment Agency, what we do, the challenges we face, and why professional registration really matters to the people who make up the Environment Agency. So we are a government agency, as our name suggests. We're part of the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, and we cover the whole of England. And our role is to ensure that we are resilient as a country to climate change, that we have healthy air, land and water, and that we support and enable green growth and a sustainable future. So that's our role. But just to sort of tell you a bit more about the sort of things that we do as an organisation. So we operate, maintain and build flood defences. So that's everything from the Thames Barrier to earth banks in Lincolnshire. And our flood defences would stretch from here to Dhaka if we had to do that. We're an emergency responder. We're the same status as the ambulance service, police service and fire and rescue. We manage the water environment. We regulate some of the biggest industries from the power sector, waste, water industry, and even the nuclear sector. We have about 10,000 staff, £1 billion per annum approximately, and over the next 6 years we'll be investing 5.2 billion in reducing flood risk in this country. So our technical skills, know-how and professionalism of our staff are absolutely fundamental to what we do. And I'm going to come back to this in a bit more detail when I talk about it in the context of professional registration. So I said I'd talk a bit about the challenges, and we really do live in unprecedented times. In fact, I'm here talking to you from deepest, darkest home, is just a sign that we are living through the biggest pandemic for 100 years, which has brought all sorts of changes and challenges to society in a very short space of time. But actually the biggest challenge we face is climate change, and that continues to be. Our weather's changing. In the last 10 years, the UK's had its wettest February, April, June, November, December on record. So floods, droughts, rising sea level, they're with us now. And our natural world on which we all rely is actually declining rapidly all over the globe. And that's a really challenging context for our work. And the people and professionals in the Environment Agency, in the supply chain we work with, in our partner organisations, really are the best asset that we have, because to face all these challenges we need to adapt. And we need to adapt at a pace faster than those changes are happening. So whether it's a changing climate or how we manage a society to the pandemic, trying to build something back better is absolutely key to the future success of this country, and also to a thriving environment. And that's what we're about. So to meet all of those challenges, we have a wide range of skills and professions in the Environment Agency. We have biologists, hydrologists, engineers, geographers, geologists, modelers, incident responders, and data and digital professionals. And they all apply their knowledge, skills and professionalism day in, day out to solve real world problems. And all told, we have about 3,000 staff with some sort of professional qualification or membership of a professional body. And what they all have in common, as I say, is this application of skills to real world problems. I think it's fair to say that the Environment Agency, we've been on a bit of a journey with professional accreditation. So we went through a time a few years ago when we placed much greater value on generalists than we did on our specialists and professionals. And we relied a lot on in-house training. And what I mean by that is we were training ourselves and training each other. But what we realised is that we were losing out in the jobs market, and we were losing key skills like engineering and environmental skills. We were becoming less resilient because we were tending to rely on fewer and fewer specialists who actually really understood the deep technical aspects of our role. And we were less respected as an organisation. I can recall meetings when I was challenged because the qualifications and experience of our staff weren't a parallel with the people that we were meeting in other organisations. So our credibility suffered. And we also didn't value engagement with the next generation of people who will be coming to work for us. And we're a STEM employer. And so, actually reaching out and offering attractive careers is really important for the future. And I'm really pleased to say we've moved on from that, what was actually a pretty low point for us, I think, in this, in terms of skills and professionalism. So we now offer a range of learning opportunities. So we pay an annual professional membership for any member of staff who wants it. We offer training opportunities from apprenticeship to chartership. We have key roles where professional accreditation is a requirement for the role, and we're sort of exploring that further. We work with professional bodies of our key professions to offer tailored programs towards accreditation. So whether it's fast track chartered status with SIWEM or our graduate trainee program for engineers, we're working with our professional bodies. We enable staff to attend conferences, to attend and speak at conferences, and also to be mentors to bring on the next generation of young professionals. We work with professional bodies to provide in-house training. So we're not teaching ourselves, we're getting in those ideas from outside. And we plan and encourage, as part of our business planning processes, we plan that for everybody to do 5 days learning per year. But there is a lot more to do around this, particularly in ensuring that our development programs and professional accreditations are truly inclusive, whether it's race, gender, or any other form of diversity. Few women actually reach professional status, and we also need to do more to reward and recognise staff who achieve professional status, and that's something we're working on. So I really wanted to just run through the benefits, you know, as an employer, why this matters to us. So I said, as an organisation, we really are about solving real world problems, and it's that I think really brings professionalism and professional accreditation into its own, because it's about having the skills and learning. It's about how to apply them to those problems. But it's also about how you continuously learn, grow, and as a professional, and bring in the ideas from working with other like-minded professionals. So the benefits, I think, are it does offer independent assurance that the skills of our staff that are recognised and have been accredited externally. It enables us to do much more to share knowledge and ideas amongst like-minded professionals. And with the challenges we face, keeping up to date and being ahead of the curve, it really matters. It provides that framework for continuous development and learning and lifelong learning as our understanding and as our knowledge develops and grows. It makes us a more attractive employer because, you know, particularly for some of the competitive professions, because we can offer that professionalising as part of our sort of package of reward. And if we're challenged, as we are, because of the sort of business that we are, whether it's in court or inquiries or reviews, it means we have some credibility and can put up, you know, recognised experts. And finally, and most importantly, it's important to pride, morale, and motivation, that people can feel a sense of achievement, but also actually people enjoy the networking, the professional networking and CPD that goes along with professional membership. So I'm really proud to say that we have been accredited as the Society for the Environment Employer Champion. So thank you for that, and that's in recognition of the work that we do to develop employees in environmental disciplines. So I'll finish off very briefly with a little bit about me, because I have a confession to make. I'm not actually a professional member myself. But I left school and I went straight to work from school. But I was lucky enough to work for an employer at that time who did value professional development. And I was able to access professional training and qualifications, and ultimately they sponsored me to do a master's. And it's thanks to that foresight of that employer that I've had a fantastic career. That I still enjoy my job, and I want others to share that experience. And actually I will be applying for my accreditation, my professional accreditation. So the bottom line for me, to conclude, is that skilled professional people will provide a vital role in adapting to the challenges that society and the environment is facing. And it's professionals who are going to be at the heart of building a cleaner, greener future. So it's a no-brainer, professional accreditation. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Catherine. Very interesting insight indeed. Um, and yeah, two bits of really interesting self-reflection, I guess, in terms of an organisation point of view and from a personal point of view, really. You know, the fact that the Environment Agency have made that move, going away from the generalist expertise to something more specific is really interesting to hear. And you know, your points at the end there is really, again, insightful for people to know about your career journey. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to hand straight over to Martin now, if that's okay. Martin, are you ready to go?
I am, Phil, and thank you very much for the opportunity to join you and Catherine this afternoon, and 40 odd colleagues, members, interested parties who are keen to continue or certainly learn how they might continue their chartered journey. So looking forward to your questions shortly, but before I do, what I'd like to just explain is my journey, how Chartered Environmentalist helped me over the last 25 years, and what it means to me. My employer, Willmott Dixon, just to set out a little bit, if you've not heard of the organisation, what it is we get up to, and explain their approach and their support for professionals that I've been delighted in the last 10 years, or almost 10 years, 9.5 years of working with the business, as to the support that I've had in my role to push with the business and to support for chartership, and just to explain the value of chartership for the organisation. And much the same as Catherine mentioned towards the end there, that Willmott Dixon's also an employer champion. I was absolutely delighted that as a business to receive that recognition on World Environment Day 2019. A very proud moment for me and for the business, especially with the presentation along the same day with the Environment Agency as well. So as a business, Willmott Dixon is a construction and interiors fit out business. So it'll take any project within the built environment and either demolish it or refurbish the existing asset, or in some cases get into the soil and stone, remediate that legacy ground, and build a new asset for our customers. We operate mainly in England and Wales, sometimes in Scotland, and the range of projects and the environmental spectrum that calls upon is fascinating for me. So when you look at the built environment, look at the towns and the cities around where you live and work, the challenges of operating with brownfield, greenfield on the fringes, legacy issues in the ground and in the environment, or perhaps more modern day challenges after the fire at an international arena off the Irish Sea, and the environmental challenges that threw up. Having the understanding from an environmental perspective as to what's involved is really important, so as that we can address that project challenge, understand the risks, and support the project build teams to plan for and execute a good quality project, and mitigate the health, safety, environmental risks. And hopefully, if we have the right customer who's keen to do as we are, to build a sustainable project, especially now as we come out of the last period, hopefully to build back better and greener for a more sustainable built environment. So the range of challenges that involves with material selection, the risks of where those materials are coming from and how we manage that legal liability, mitigate the risks, for example, of timber or steel, or aggregates, how we manage the waste, mitigate that by designing out effectively and following the hierarchy, and making sure that we reuse and recycle, recover as many of those materials as able. Really needs to ensure we've got the right competence of people to support that complexity for our project teams. So as a role, my role within the business is, as Phil mentioned, to manage our risk compliance assurance. So to make sure we're protecting ourselves, making sure we've got the right legal mechanisms in place, and legal registers, and the management tools, the audit assurance to help us share continued improvement and learning between the 140 odd projects across the country, and to help then assure our performance with the team across the country. So very much around risk management, training, compliance assurance. The support that business makes for individuals, whether they're joining the company with a degree of chartership, or hopefully chartered, but if they're not, they've got that commitment and capability to make that journey towards chartered. The support there in terms of the opportunities, the time and support resource to help them process their own learning towards chartership, and once they're chartered, to pay for that full membership and chartership going forward. So that's the support that the business plays. We have a regular environment forum, more so virtual now than in person. I sort of miss seeing everybody together, but it's great to see everybody virtually every 4 or 5 months. It's great that we've become very competent and confident with the technology and capable of using a variety of different systems. That's very much been the case, and long may it continue. And I'll come back to those 3 C's in a moment of capability, competence. So I think that's a very important aspect of chartership. So supporting those individuals on their journey then provides the business with great people who are more able to support in our bids in the design phases, and helping us understanding the challenges that we are working with our customers to, and then assuring us through that delivery phase. I think the importance of competence has perhaps been shown more recently with Dame Hackett's report post-Grenfell. Building safely is a fascinating outcome, and a real sharp spotlight on the value of competence that's been identified through that process. Willmott Dixon have been early adopters, working with the constructors scheme to develop better understanding of what a competence-based quality approach would look like to ensure that all persons and all disciplines involved in building safely understand and are prepared and have the assured capability to play their part. And exactly the same thinking applies to our environmental resilience for the future challenges that we're beginning to see more of as the last decade's shown, and inevitably some of those challenges are going to be all the greater and more intense, perhaps in the next 5 years, let alone the next decade. So I suppose that really comes down to, as an employer, why bother? Why so what? Why would we support chartership? As I touched on, it's a competitive market, and to be, I think the word that Catherine also used, to be seen as credible in a competitive marketplace is really important to support our bids, to support our customers in the range of challenges that they have, and to provide then the assurance for stakeholders, whether that's internal to the business, from the project teams to our holdings board and the respective regions, as well as external assurance. One of the big challenges that came out of ISO 14001, and it was fantastic to see the leadership from the Environment Agency and other regulators, was the wording around self-regulated recognition for those organisations that had ISO 14001 to the 2015 standard, and could back that up with a strong, robust, competent workforce. And so having the right skills in the right place with the right competence is all important for that organisational recognition of capability, for as a business for us to have confidence and to have that competence verified externally by one of the member bodies, corporate bodies, sorry, professional bodies of the Society for the Environment. I suppose then coming back down to my journey towards chartership, it's helped me personally pull the building blocks of my career, my experience from being an agricultural farm manager, working with landscape irrigation and drainage, to working for the National Rivers Authority as it was in the southwest, and latterly with the Environment Agency when it first formed, to then working with Angling Water as a management trainee and an ops manager up on the Humber Bank, also in asset management and supply chain performance assurance. And the environmental discipline and the experience that I had from that wide variety of roles then enabled me to pull together the portfolio of experience I had to gain full membership and chartership, originally with the Institute of Water and then with Test and Challenge and Transfer with IEMA, to be where I am today. And certainly without my chartered environmentalist and my chartered manager status, I do not think that I would have gained the role that I did in mid-2011 as I do now. And yeah, it's certainly a role that I'm thoroughly enjoying and being able to continually invest, both from a leadership perspective as well as a technical perspective, with the array of project skills that helps me maintain my CPD and maintain my membership with IEMA. So hopefully that provides a good, what do we do as an organisation, the support that we invest in for our employees. And it's fantastic during lockdown to see a couple of colleagues who, in particular, I'll shout out Simone Coddington, who's just gained a practitioner's examination with IEMA. So I wish her well with getting her recognition for the next stage on her journey towards chartership. And I know others have been beavering away whilst they've been on furlough to make that happen for them. Because ultimately, as an organisation, whilst I and our executive team, all the way through the managing directors and their boards, can support chartership, at the end of the day, it's each individual's career. As a, for the where are we now? For the large number of you are not chartered yet and are on that journey. Only you can make it happen. We can support from an organisational support. We can provide hopefully the opportunities for you to shine, but it's you that's got to do the hard work, the legwork, to pull together all of the evidence, to go through the examination processes with your professional body, and to gain your chartership. And hopefully they'll then be well recognised by the organisation you're working with, or for future employers. I always have impressed over the last 20 years the roles that I've had of encouraging others and getting them to encourage me. So I thank Alison Brough, who's a chartered environmentalist, for her nudge of me towards my principal environmental advisor and towards my fellowship, which unfortunately I had all best intents 5 months ago to get nailed. Being human, I've got the paperwork 90% there. I just got to finish it off. So perhaps over the summer, with a bit of holiday time, no further than my gate, because I should imagine the majority of us are not going too far. So perhaps I might find some time in the evenings to get that squared away. So we're all in the same challenge, and I think we've got to test and challenge each other and support each other to be the best that we can be, and to get that recognition for us in our own companies and as individual professionals. I think hopefully that's given a good flavour. I think it's about 15 minutes of my time, Phil. So I'll hand back and hopefully we've got some good questions.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much for that, Martin. I'm just going to do some changing around of the screens. Right. Yes. So as Martin mentioned, it is time for some questions. But before we get to that, I noted down quite a few different words that I thought were worth mentioning again that Martin mentioned there. Competition for a start, competence, credibility, external recognition, right skills, right place. I think all of those, plus many more that you said as well, are just worth highlighting again. And I think a lot of those words kind of emphasize what professional registration and professional membership is all about. So just mentioning those before we move on again. You may remember when you registered for the webinar, we asked if you had any questions for the speakers today beforehand or in advance, and we did have a few of those in. So to begin with, whilst you're typing your questions in, we shall run through a couple of those, if that's okay with Martin and Catherine. What is the best approach to convince an employer to sponsor you through progressing professional membership? So for the example was given from AIEMA to PIEMA. If an employee of yours is wanting to go through that process, I guess you guys don't need much convincing at all.
No, shall I come in?
Yes,
I'll start us off. I mean, it depends on your employer and sort of what's motivating them. But you know, the stuff around, you know, to give you that cutting edge. You know, if you're in a competitive, market, that actually the professionalism will give you access and cutting edge as an employer. If people depend on you, you know, Martin was talking about the reliance that post Grenfell on construction. You know, we have to assure our flood defences because people's lives depend on them. So it provides assurance and credibility. Particularly if you know, if you've got very significant responsibilities. And I think the third area is many of the markets we're operating in are very competitive. They're competing for business or competing for employees to come and join your firm. And actually, I would say attractiveness to employees would be a key factor as well as an employer.
Okay, Martin, do you have?
Yeah, no, I'd add to that, Catherine. I think that's very good. I think in order to sell the case and, you know, in effect to sell yourself, you need to understand to be understood. So that's one of, you know, Stephen Covey's, if you've ever read Covey's book of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I'd recommend it if you've not read it. There's certainly one point that comes out there for me is that if you want to make that case with your employer, you need to understand your employer's values, their market, really understand where their strategy is going, and then to help them understand you, to make sure that you're understood as to the potential that you could bring them to their bottom line. And that's the challenge for, you know, any environmentalist. I'd say, you know, we've got good principles at heart, but being able to really translate, you know, why, so what. If you didn't support me to do this, what are you missing out? I see one of the other questions is around, you know, being able to be competitive within the marketplace. You know, people might be losing some roles at the moment, but certainly some colleagues I know who've moved within the industry have moved very quickly onto new employee because they are full members, or they are chartered, or they are on that chartered journey, and with the new employee, they've been whipped up, which is fantastic, I think, for what we're talking about today in terms of the value of chartership. It is recognised within the market more so now, and hopefully with the hashtag #IamCMV campaign this week, we can raise that profile all the more. But really understanding the business that you're in, the sector that's in, the challenges, the issues and the opportunities, and then making the case as a cost benefit to just make it a no-brainer decision for the organisation. Yes, it's a, you know, it might be, I don't know, a couple of thousand to support in terms of non-productive time or a bit of outlay on training and the like, but actually the return that you're going to bring to that, you know, more bids won, more challenging, complex projects taken on, better liaison on a technical perspective to gain stronger credibility. Better insight to breadth of markets beyond your own sector, and how we can then share that learning and competence between sectors. You know, all those sort of aspects, those value added and indirect value added points that you can make the case for, and then make that case as high up the chain as you can. You know, don't just rely on your line report. Go to your line report and get the recognition at a board level if you can, or a directorate level, to support that, you know, with triangulated discussions on that journey. Hopefully that helps.
I imagine so. Yes, so lots of opportunity for whether convincing as well. Yeah, convincing those who may or may not need convincing. But it's always worth having that discussion to begin with anyway. Moving on to the next question. This comes with a bit of a caveat in that Martin and Catherine might not be able to disclose. Plus, Catherine mentioned at the start of that response, organisations are very different. And we have two organisations in Willmott Dixon and the Environment Agency, for a start, who are very different. You know, very commercial, not so. You know, they are very different. So attempting to gain chartership level requires a lot of commitment from candidates in addition to their normal workload. How do your organisations reward the extra effort and time individual employees take in order to gain chartership? Is it reflected in your company's pay structure, or appreciation in other ways, or recognition to the individual? Martin, if I go to you first.
Yeah, absolutely. So pay is always an interesting one, isn't it? Let's start there. So yeah, recognition and reward, it might be on a time lag. I would never expect it to be directly remunerated. If that's your goal, I'd go back to basis and start with why are you bothering to do this? It's not like a chartered account management type arrangement. You know, we're not quite there yet, I don't think. I think we should be, but I think as a professional sector, we've got some way to go. So I think baby steps, prove the value when you've gained it, demonstrate the added value that you've delivered, and then discuss pay. Pay should always be, you know, and that type of reward, I think, comes with a bit of a lag. If you want the money, go join SIEMA and become a chartered accountant or a capital accountant or something like that. But time and resource, some organisations are very structured and very constrained. Others allow you to manage your diary to deliver the outcomes, and hopefully those organisations that haven't been in that latter, more trusting organisational structure over the last 4 or 5 months, where they've not been able to rely on presenteeism to keep the finger on, hopefully have learned quite a bit as an organisation, and actually by being more liberating, providing the structure within which you can perform and manage your own time and to deliver effectively on that basis will be more the norm for the future. And that's certainly been, you know, the biggest organisational challenge for any business selecting remote working has always been that kickback of, well, I can't see my employees, so therefore they're just twiddling their thumbs or whatever. I think we've moved on from that. I think the last 4 months has hopefully proven that. So therefore, even more so, it's your time, it's your chartership, it's your professional development. Make it yours. Make the time in your day, and, you know, if you can, double up on your effort. So if you're doing something for work that, you know, would help you with your professional membership journey, understand the structure that you've got to present your evidence to your professional body and make the effort work 2 for 1, or 1 for 2. One bit of activity for 2 outcomes. I think if you can be more intelligent and understand the effort that you're putting in, and to use that effort 2 or 3 times, you'll be in a much stronger place. Perhaps Catherine, you've got some thoughts maybe to add to that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Martin. So, we're in a public sector. We've been in an environment of public sector pay constraint. So there isn't a magic wand that I can wave and say, well, you get chartership and you'll get a bonus. It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. So I think, as Martin says, you absolutely have to own your own development as training in any organisation and any profession. That is the first thing. You have to want to do this. We do, as I say, we want to be. I would say that our recognition, that the reward comes through more, I suppose you'd call it intangible recognition. In that, you may progress faster, you may be eligible for the different, more interesting roles. We do have some roles that specifically require chartered status, so you make yourself more eligible for certain roles in organisations. And I think actually attractiveness to, on your career journey, attractiveness to another employer may also be of value. So we've had a lot of value from people who've gone from the Environment Agency to other organisations and then come back again. So I think there's all sorts of benefits out there to be had. But I would add that we have definitely seen employees in the Environment Agency, who enjoy the membership and get a lot personally out of being a professionally respected member of an accredited body, and all of the networking and CPD and engagement with colleagues in different parts of the profession. So an important part of the package.
Yeah, absolutely, Catherine. I don't think that I've made enough of that earlier, but just in terms of my career, the friendships that I've had over the last 20 odd years, and individuals who have retired now, but I'm still in contact. And you talk about common issues I'm facing now with retired professionals. You've still got that. It's wonderful. It's lovely, and it's great just to have a coffee and a catch up, or invite them to join the pub quiz every now and then. And it's good fun. And absolutely, that's what it should be about. It's and the money and the financial reward comes as a bonus to the professional and personal recognition that can be gained.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for those responses. One thing that really struck me was that Catherine mentioned that for some roles you require chartership. So you gain chartership, but you don't necessarily get a pay reward for that, but it allows you to get to that next role. So it's certainly a possible stepping stone within an organisation like the Environment Agency. We're going to move straight on to some more questions, if that's okay, ones that we've had in live during this webinar. So this one is, I am a forest engineer from Brazil. I had worked with some mining companies in restoration area and sustainable forest management in the Amazon forest. I'm now doing a postgraduate in geoprocessing. I'm looking forward to improve my skills in this global world. Can I, as a Brazilian forest engineer, be a member of the Society for the Environment? And that's something I'm probably going to answer for a start. There is no reason why not. Martin's mentioned that Willmott Dixon is mainly UK based generally. Environment Agency is clearly predominantly England based, but professional registration is a global thing. So if you're able to demonstrate your competence in what you're doing with your environmental work with forestry and sustainability in Brazil, then you absolutely could be a chartered environmentalist if you meet those competencies. Any particular words of advice for the person who wrote this question from maybe Catherine?
It sounds like you have a fascinating experience, and much needed experience actually. So international collaboration, working in the sort of the field that you're working in, is really important. And actually, a lot of where the world is quite divided at the moment, but it's the scientists and technical people who are continuing to work together and collaborate internationally. We really value our international collaborations, and a lot of those we get through the professional bodies that we're members for. So I would go for it. I think personally you'll find it very rewarding, and I think other people will get a lot of benefit from your experience as well.
Absolutely, Catherine. I couldn't agree more with that. And I chair for the Society for the Environment the Soil and Stones Task Group, which is looking at raising the understanding and profile of soil and stones, predominantly in the UK, but of the 40 or so professionals from sectors and professional bodies across all aspects. Those that have the international experience, either they're consultants or they're working for international organisations. Certainly the conversations I had with them, I would absolutely add, support what Catherine's just said, but add that the recognition and the value that you could invest from your experience with your roles to better understand how we manage and can recover from forestry and a soils management perspective would be invaluable. The Institute of Foresters, I'm sure, would be glad to hear from you and to discuss what options are available to you and help you gain the due recognition for your career to date and going forward.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Moving straight on, how will professional membership help, especially in the current circumstances when businesses are losing staff currently, in many instances? Martin, do you have any words on that one?
Yeah, it's a tough market at the moment. Many companies without the turnover that are cash flow dependent are having to make some really tough decisions. Furloughs definitely helped to a degree, but looking forward to the rest of this year and next year, we've still got a long journey ahead. As a business, we're going through an organisational review and change, and it's publicly stated with press releases that Rick Willmott has made that we're looking at a 5% reduction at this time. And it's sad to see good people leaving the business through no fault of their own. And Rick's been very sad and very clear about that in his messaging. But those who are professional members, have, as I've said, have found themselves really well placed in a very competitive market. And obviously well positioned within any organisational review to be retained if at all possible. And clearly from a business perspective, our environmental skills and coverage is not only from the pure environmental discipline, but also with our health, safety, environmental professionals who help us manage the low level of basic compliance around fuel setup and cosh regs and all the rest of it. Soil and dust runoff management and what have you. So they are equally important in understanding their professional recognition and journey. And we're doing a lot of work with SOCENV and IOSH on that. And I'm excited at what might come out later this year around that. So watch this space.
Catherine, do you have anything to add to that one?
Yeah, it's a really interesting time for us because we are, as I mentioned, we did secure quite a lot of money in the March budget to actually invest in flood defences in the future. And it's been really interesting because we've been working very hard with our supply chain because the funding for some of the work is over a fairly finite period. And we've been working closely with the supply chain. So it is a competitive market, but the supply chain providers who have the professions and the skilled people, ready to roll, we have been able, we know from the feedback we've had, we've been able to support, effectively we've been helping those employers to keep skilled people on because of that funding. You know, so again, going back to that point about accreditation providing the professional edge in this really competitive market, it's enabled us as a, you know, in this case as the client, to really, you know, the companies who are doing well from us are the companies who sort of, you know, who, you know, we've been able to tap into that expertise.
Fantastic. We are running slightly short on time, so I do have a few more questions in here, and I'm going to go to one of you for each question, if that's okay.
Okay.
Just to save some time. Do you advise mentoring to gain full or ultimately chartered status? What is your advice to find a mentor? Catherine, could I go to you for that one?
Yes, I do advise mentoring, whether you're doing professional, whether you're doing professional accreditation or even just interested in your general career development. I would advise having a mentor. I've had a number over the years, some inside, some external, always very, very helpful. And there's a whole host of routes internally. We tend to be fairly, we used to have a sort of mentor matching process, and we do for our professional bodies, you know, because we do match up. Like, for example, supervising engineers with trainee engineers, and likewise we do the same for SciWem. But we also have more informal networks. So just this week, for example, I've been approached by a couple of people to mentor them. It's a really rewarding part as you go through your career.
Thank you very much for that. And I have very recently become a mentee, so I am going through that journey at the moment and already finding it really useful. So I'm going to skip on straight away. Somebody is interested to know that I assume this person is an RICS accredited individual. So if you are an RICS, so surveying accredited, as well as a PIEMA, what are the options for transitioning across to CM? Now I could probably add to this, but Martin, you've gone through the IEMA route to CM. You probably know a little bit about the RICS, possibly. Essentially, you can become a chartered environmentalist through RICS and IEMA, or IEMA. Any words of advice for this person, Martin?
Yeah, talk with each. I think you're in a fantastic, very strong placed position to become a chartered environmentalist with both those sets of experience, and I think sadly fairly unique in your field to be a chartered or a potential chartered environmentalist. So you would stand out quite nicely, especially when it comes to, you know, whole life costing, life cycle analysis, and understanding the carbon costing challenges associated with different materials that we design and build with across the infrastructure and non-infrastructure environments. So talk with both bodies, and if you see somebody who you think could be a mentor to help you on that journey, just ask.
Yes.
They have all been helped on their journey. Catherine and I have, I'm sure,
Yes.
by many people, and yeah, there's no harm from asking.
We've just had a message from Sharon as a question, but it's basically saying that IEMA mentor, I am an IEMA mentor. Contact IEMA in the first instance. IEMA have a formal mentoring system, so there you go, a bit of advice there. Next question is, how does professional membership help professionals who are not surrounded by similar individuals and need to drive the environmental agenda in their business, which is not driven by those particular values? So how does an environmental professional push that forward in a different, when they're not surrounded by environmental professionals? Catherine.
I think your professional network then is really, really important, because you can sometimes feel like a bit of a lone voice. I know from talking to colleagues who are in that, you know, and friends who are in that position, it can be quite a lonely place. So again, it's really important because for two reasons. One is, you know, you won't, because you're sort of in a small team or might be a lone person, you don't have that contact and sort of swapping of ideas of people, really like-minded people. So actually reaching out means that you have access, you know, that cutting edge that you can bring into your organisation. And actually for you, if you're finding it challenging, it's also a support network and friends to actually help you through that journey as well, but can be a really challenging place in that. So very important. I think will be very, very important for you.
Thank you for that. We are running over time now, but one question and a few opportunities that will come after that. This one's for Martin, which is quite specific to Martin possibly. I'm just starting my PIEMA journey. I want to look at careers in the environment sector, but main skill set is health and safety with environment as an add-on. How can I sell my skill set a bit better with that environmental add-on?
Very good. I'd be more than happy to, given the time, have a conversation offline. I think I touched on this earlier. And certainly as an organisation, we pay for both. Formally, our policy is we pay for one professional body membership, but obviously with HSE professionals, we do pay for both environment and IOSH membership because of that. Yeah, there's some work going on that would be interested. I'm conscious of time, so perhaps Bill, if you'd like to share my contact details, I'll be happy.
Certainly, yeah. If the person asked the question, if they would like to get in touch with me, my details are at the start of the webinar, which you may or may not have written down. Either way, you can find them on the SOCM website. This leads us to say thank you to Catherine and Martin for spending the time with us today. Very, very useful insight indeed, and I hope that everyone watching was able to gain something from today's content. So thank you very much for that indeed. I do have a few more opportunities that might be interesting to those watching before you disappear. Martin mentioned it earlier, the IMCM campaign or awareness push at the moment. The Chartered Environmentalist community is coming together throughout August 2020 to tell the world about what they're doing in their vital work. If you're an aspiring Chartered Environmentalist or an environmental professional more widely, this is the place for some serious insight and inspiration from across sectors, disciplines and experience levels. And by experience levels, we mean that they aren't all directors and CEOs and so on. They come from a wide range of different skill sets, different levels, those who've very recently become chartered and everyone in between. So if you are a chartered environmentalist, please get involved. Search for the hashtag IMCM on Twitter, LinkedIn and YouTube, and you'll find lots of stuff on there. And if it inspires you to get involved, please do. We want to hear your story. Now, sticking on the subject of chartered environmentalists, it's worth noting that currently, if you are interested in becoming a chartered environmentalist, in most cases, it's currently cheaper to do the application at the moment, and that will last until the end of September. It's something we're doing because of the current situation that we are in. Some people have had a reduction in income and so on, but we're hoping that this slight reduction will continue your path towards chartership, and it might help just that little bit. So it might be worth looking at that and speaking with your license, the professional body that you're interested in going through, to discuss that with them. We also have an upcoming webinar series coming up, which is based around the topic of natural capital. If you are a CM or an RF Tech and you have a project that you would like to showcase and allow other environmental professionals to learn from, or if you have some top tips that other sectors should consider in their work, or guidance on how you have implemented relevant standards and frameworks in the natural capital sphere, please get in touch. We are looking for some speakers. So again, one of the benefits of professional registration and professional membership is the community and the opportunity to share best practice across sectors. So that's another opportunity that's coming up. If you're interested to hear more about CM or RF Tech registers, please take a look at our How to Become and Why Become recorded webinars on our website. You'll also find the recordings from our last series, which is based on the topic of biodiversity. They will be joined by this recording of this webinar very shortly in the coming days. And that's it from us today. Thank you very much for listening and taking part. A huge thank you again to Catherine and Martin. If you're watching this webinar as a recording on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel and like the video. That is always nice to spread the word in that way. So I shall see you in the next webinar. Thank you very much for watching. Stay safe, and it's over and out from me.